we have seen that a number of steps have been taken in the last few years. The Global Diversity Framework, the Treaty on the High Seas, the Global Plastic Pollution Treaty, and so on. And so there are very good progress. And to some extent, the question is, are we moving fast enough? Are this progress covering enough of the space that needs to be covered? Because these are documents, these are treaties which cover, in fact, 70 or 72% of the global surface of the ocean on Earth. So your assessment, Ashok.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smadja, and first of all, congratulations for putting all this program together. It's an honor to be here with my colleagues and especially the Consul General of France here in the region. Just to say that it would be very immodest to share my assessment, but our assessment is the program that we are presenting to the world at the next UN Ocean Conference, which is a universal conference, which is, you said it, only the third one, whereas, you know, the COP climate is at its 30th number. So there's UNOC 3 and COP 30, which means that the first assessment is that we're very late. Ocean is very late. The ocean agenda is very late. And we all, collectively, all the nations and all the stakeholders of the ocean, the scientists, the corporates, the private sector, the public sector, and also the mayors, the governors of coastal regions have to take action, and there's no action without money. So we have to accelerate the commitments of the countries, but all the stakeholders in this ocean affairs, which is, as you have said, 72.8% of the planet, which means that this is a huge stake that we have to take together, and a huge step, and accelerate that. So we have this chance, which is maybe, I won't say the last chance, but which is an urgent call at the next UN Ocean Conference in Nice in June 2025 to come together, and that's our modalities resolution. It's called Bring It All Together in Nice with all the stakeholders. So the first assessment is ocean governance, and that's the question of this panel. We have three priorities. It's very simple, a triangle of priorities. Ocean governance cannot go forward without ocean science. So ocean science is at the heart of policy making. We have to improve the interface between science to policy. And so we are proposing with China in the roadmap that both our presidents, President Xi Jinping and President Macron, signed in May, to create an IPCC for the ocean, and which is called the International Panel for Ocean Sustainability, which would give indicators, which would come up with a minimum of consensus, north and south and east and west, on the scientific approach of policy making in the ocean governance. Second priority, if I may, on the three, is ocean finance and blue economy, of course. So you have said so much, you are all experts here on the blue economy, which involves infrastructures, ports, which involves, of course, corporates, which involves innovation. I was very impressed by the China Marine Expo, which was inaugurated today. This is a whole part of human economic activities, and China is at the forefront as a great maritime nation on these issues. So we have to share, we have to cooperate, and this is win-win. I saw that in the mantra of the Marine Tech Expo here, and this again conference, which is a non-binding conference, has to come out with the Nice agreements on the ocean. It's not binding, the conference of the UN, but the SDG 14, to which this conference is dedicated and which is on aquatic water, is binding. The world has signed for 2030 to give back its copy on the 17 SDGs. And the number 14, is underfinanced and underconsidered by the policymakers and also the people. So our role as modest interface between the politicians and the people, as experts, as diplomats, as scientists, as corporates, is to activate this commitment, accelerate the financial part of this sector, and come to a better ocean governance, again through science. I'll just finish by saying that we have major deliverables in Nice in June 2025, and we need China to help us and help the world to come to Nice with 60 ratifications of the High Seas Treaty. It's the mother of all the battles. C'est la mère de toutes les batailles. This 64% of the ocean is high seas. We have accelerated that since the One Ocean Summit in Brest in February 2022, launching this high ambition coalition, which was a European coalition for BBNJ. So we were 27 at the beginning. We finished the year 2022 with 100 countries, and the year after, it was signed in New York. Now it's time to ratify. 14 countries have ratified till now. We hope, with my colleague and Consul General present here, that France would finish the ratification process by the end of November, so that's 15. There's still 45 countries to go, and we count on China. Because if China ratifies before June 2025, many other countries would follow. And I'm looking at my colleague in the Indian Ocean. I'm sure that it would incentivize other countries to ratify. And that would be a huge step forward for the ocean governance, because many other questions would then come when we'll need to, with the UN system, to implement BBNJ and launch the first COP for the sea and the high seas, which would then be announced, hopefully, in Nice in June 2025.
Just one follow-up question, Ashok. You mentioned ratification process, and we have seen in some areas that sometimes the ratification process is really the point which blocks everything. It takes sometimes years for Parliament to ratify, political infighting, domestic politics being involved. How confident are you that this ratification process can move fast enough?
Well, we are campaigning like we did for the COP15 the COP21 in 2015, and came out with the Paris Agreement for Climate and the indicator 1.5. That's the benchmark, that's the ambition. And we are proceeding in the same way with our different colleagues from Europe, of course, but also with an NGO which is very famous and very active, which is called the High Seas Alliance, which is based in 160 countries. And what we did with Olivier Poivre d'Arvor, the ambassador and special envoy of President Macron, is 2 weeks ago we did a world tour on a Zoom in 6 regions with all our ambassadors of France and all the representatives of High Seas Alliance to do a tracker of what's the situation, what is the capacity building that some countries need, how DOALOS, which is the sea, the law of the sea in the UN, can support. The EU has put 40 million euros on the table to help this process of ratification with support in, it's a law issue, right? In different countries, they need to know, they need to be aware about the importance of this treaty. So let's hope that joining forces with capacity building in the next 209 days that we have before UNOC, the countdown is on my phone, if the 30, 40, 50 countries that we need to ratify would ratify. And we really hope that China, there's not one day since I have not heard about this high seas treaty in China. I know the concern. I know how China respects the UNCLOS and the Montego Bay Agreement and the law of the sea, and how this BBNJ agreement can help and accelerate the ocean governance, and again through science and through finance, with all the ecosystem of the blue economy joining forces and finalizing also with standard rules that all could apply and upgrade our treatment of this topic. I'll just finish with one word, if I may, Mr. Smajma, one word, which is the mantra of Peter Thompson. There's no healthy planet without a healthy ocean. And the health of the ocean is measurably in decline. So we have to act now, and there are paths and there's a way to act. Thank you.
Yes, the point of are we moving fast enough? So, thank you, Ashok. Let me turn to you, Mr. Al-Farezi, because you are the Secretary General of the Indian Ocean Rim Association, and your association has taken some steps to provide orientation on the governance of the ocean, especially addressing issues like environment degradation, illegal fishing, easing geopolitical tension. What are the orientations that your organization has defined? How do they take care of these crucial issues that need to be addressed?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for giving me the floor. That indeed, first of all, I would like to express our appreciation to the organizer for having me here for this very important discussion. In the context of Indian Ocean region, the marine economy and ocean governance are intertwined. The vast complex body of Indian Ocean faces a range of challenges that demand coordinated and effective governance to ensure its sustainability and security, that require a collaborative approach involving international laws, regional framework, and stakeholders' engagement. We believe that as a primary framework for the ocean governance, indeed is UNCLOS, that establish standards for environmental preservation and management of marine natural resources, while regulating government's rights and obligation for the use of the world ocean. We also note that the 1992 Rio Declaration on Environment and Development outlined principle that all nations have the obligation to prevent harm from occurring outside their borders, and to consult with other effective nations whenever planned activities may potentially harm others. Indeed, just mentioned by Mr. Ashok, that the High Seas Treaty on Marine Biodiversity areas beyond national jurisdiction aim also at stewardship of the ocean on behalf of present and future generation, and strengthening resilience to contain provision based on the polluter pays principle, as well as mechanism for dispute in line with the Convention on the Law of the Sea. And in our view, that the fundamental importance of having an efficient and effective ocean governance as a response to the global problem of the ocean is attached to the concept of the intergenerational solidarity, shared responsibility in the distribution of resources, and the equal development opportunities for all. As such, the governance must be inclusive, equitable, and sustainable. However, developing nations, especially small island developing states and LDCs, face significant capacity constraint in enforcing regulation, monitoring illegal activities and developing their maritime economies, which present significant risk of deepening inequality and further marginalizing this most vulnerable nation. Therefore, it is critical to promote international cooperation to further increase capacity building and the transfer of marine technology, including the development and strengthening of institutional capacity and national regulatory framework or mechanism. It is also crucial in our view that that we have to emphasize that the ocean governance should not be used as a means to penalize countries with limited capacities. Instead, it should be viewed as an opportunity to empower and uplift them to participate fully in the protection of our ocean for future generations. That is what, in our view, that's why IORA can do a lot of things that we are now also doing. We aligned national policy with international treaties, such as the Global Treaty to Reduce Plastic Pollution, through the development and the adoption of the IORA Strategic Marine Debris Framework and capacity building activities. We also promoting sustainable practices like responsible fishing by establishing the guideline for combating IUU fishing and its follow-up activities. And indeed, we are also doing some activities, awareness on the BBNG, as this is a new regulation, new global regulation, new global laws that I think member states should have the knowledge and capacity how to implement it. That's something that we can do. I think we can say something with relation to the partnership later. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Al-Farizi. Let me follow up with one point, because in this element of governance and recommendations that your organization is providing, are there elements related to the enforcement when we look, for instance, at the critical issue of illegal fishing, overfishing? Are there enforcement measures that are making these orientations, quote unquote, credible?
Yeah, just earlier this month, we just concluded our negotiation on the guideline, IORA guideline to combat the IUU fishing. Thanks to the government of France through its very strong support to us. We already agreed to have this guideline. Hopefully in February, the guideline will be adopted by the ministers for the implementation. Indeed, IORA is not the organization that can enforce this kind of regulation. That's why we can only have the guideline, which indeed this is become a regional norm for countries in IORA to do their sustainable practice in the fisheries management in the ocean. And hopefully, because the development of this guideline is also include the participation of the dialogue partners, then we hope that not only the IORA member state, but also the dialogue partners, as well as the countries outside of IORA can also join in the implementation.
Thank you. I would like now to turn to you, Mr. ZHOU Jinfeng. as I mentioned, you are the Vice Chairman and Secretary General of China Biodiversity Conservation and Green Development Foundation, among other things. And in fact, in your capacity, you have seen and you have been involved in a very important piece of international legislation, if I can put it that way, which is the Global Diversity Framework, Biodiversity Framework. And in this framework, there are 23 action-oriented targets for action by 2030. So I think it would be important to hear from you because, of course, protecting biodiversity is today absolutely essential for the sustainability of our ocean. So I would like to ask you your assessment about this framework. What in this framework makes you happy? What are the elements that fulfill your expectation? Are there elements that you think are missing or should have been stronger in the document? And back to the other point that I mentioned before, what about implementation? What about implementation? So please, your remarks.
谢谢。昆明框架条约在 COP15 之前，我自己去了蒙特利尔，之后我们的团队又去了罗马、内罗毕、日内瓦，一直在参加它前期的谈判。前期谈判，我们在回顾之前的 Architect 就爱知目标的时候发现的，20个目标呢，没有一个完全完成。所以这个目标，大家在制定新目标的时候，在拼命的去思考。一部分人呢，就会认为需要，因为生物多样性的危机越来越紧迫，窗口越来越小，所以要制定一个雄心勃勃的目标 （ambitious target）。但是另外一部分人说，我们制定了那么多目标，一直也都没有完成，所以我们希望制定一个脚踏实地的目标。昆蒙框架，昆明 Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework， 昆蒙框架是一个非常了不起的目标。它这个 framework 呢，在中国政府作为主席国的全力推动下，在所有的 party、所有的参与方共同努力下，最终达成了。这是一个既雄心勃勃又切实可行的目标。那么这里边有什么我们应该注意的？有什么我们不应该觉得不是很满意的？有很多。从我们作为一个科学机构，作为一个保护机构，我们当然希望它更加步子更大一点，但是我们仍然认为这个目标是最好的。中国政府和世界各国也在积极的在履行这个目标。那么海洋的生物多样性呢，我们认为它有5个大的挑战，最主要的一个是没有控制的捕捞，第二个呢是自然岸线的消失。在上一个会议上呢，有3个问题提到，我想也接着就回应一下。第一个问题是海洋会变成我们的冬天更冷，夏天更热吗？不会的，海洋是一个大的 buffer， 是一个缓冲器，它是人类生存很重要的伙伴。当然，它可能会产生台风、飓风、各种海洋包括厄尔尼诺现象，对人类造成很大的威胁。但是海洋总的来说是我们应对气候危机的主要的同行者，我们只需要加强对它的治理和协作。还有第二个问题是，海洋会不会变成一个碳的排放者？不会，我们人类只要是正确的按照现在的不断的形成的国际公约和各国的努力，加强对海洋的保护的话，海洋在我们迎接双碳挑战的时候，它可以还超过25%的贡献，可以作为我们更大的一个伙伴。
那么第3个问题是，它对生物多样性和气候、海洋的连通性，它和陆地是完全不同的，它具有超强的连通性，所以它在气候危机和生物多样性应对挑战的时候，是人类最重要的、最强大的同盟者。谢谢。
Thank you very much for these remarks and also for clarifying some misunderstanding because they are quite widespread. Exactly. Thank you so much. So let me now turn to you, Mrs. Liu. You are a research fellow at the Center for International Law at the National University of Singapore. You have been involved in many discussions, in many, I would say, consultation and research on ocean governance. And in fact, it would be quite interesting to hear from you. We heard from the diplomats or the negotiators. You are a lawyer, if I can put it that way. What is your perspective on specifically 2 items, the BBNG and the agreement or the negotiation on the plastic pollution treaty?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Samaja, and for your opening remarks, for our panel, and for your very kind introduction, and also for your questions. So first of all, I also would like to join my fellow panelists in thanking the organizers for having me here at this grand forum, and also for giving me the honor to share this panel with my fellow distinguished panelists. I think this forum is indeed a great venue for this very interesting, exciting and important exchanges of ideas to take place. And back to your question, Mr. Samaja, on the developments and also what are the opportunities that lie in front of us. I think to speak after Asok actually put me in such a disadvantaged position because I also want to talk about the BBNJ agreement. But I think, as already pointed out in your opening remarks, that the achievement and also development that countries have been able to achieve in the past decades are actually very promising and encouraging. For instance, 2 years ago in 2022, the international community celebrated a 40th anniversary of the adoption of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. And this year, 2024, we celebrated the 30th anniversary of the entering into force of the Law of the Sea Convention. So the Law of the Sea Convention has been the constitution for the oceans and also as a framework convention for global ocean governance. And it was in this context that last year, 2023, witnessed yet another huge progress under this framework convention, which was the successful adoption of the Agreement on Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction, BBNJ agreement. I think I'm actually the first one to spell out the BBNJ because we are dealing with lots of acronyms in the Law of the Sea. The BBNJ agreement is the third implementation under the Law of the Sea Convention. And I noticed that last year, the organizers of the forum invited Ambassador Raina Lee, the president of the Intergovernmental Conference on the BBNJ agreement, to give her opening remarks to the forum. So it's very happy to learn that this topic has already been discussed, has already been paid much attention to at this forum. So the overall objective of the BBNJ agreement is the conservation and sustainable use of the oceans. And to achieve this, one method is through promote greater coordination and cooperation in a coherent governance and management of the ocean. And to be more specific, the BBNJ agreement put this into the 4 issues that it covers. The marine genetic resources, including fair and equitable sharing of benefits, area-based management tools, including marine protected areas, environmental impact assessments, and capacity building, and the transfer of marine technology, which is very key, a key issue to the topics that we have covered in this panel, which is the implementation. And I also checked the status for ratification and signatures, but since our talk has already covered, I'll just leave that. So I'm pretty sure that the discussion of the BBNJ agreement and also the implementation of the agreement will remain highly relevant and important for global ocean governance in the coming years, and also for the future versions of this forum. And so the BBNJ agreement takes a cross-sectoral approach in looking at global governance, which means that the topics that can be covered under this agreement are there are lots of topics that can be covered, including the loss of biodiversity, ecosystem degradation, and also plastic pollution. So plastic pollution, therefore, I also want to highlight the development here, that the ongoing negotiation of the Global Plastic Treaty is guided by a resolution of the United Nations Environment Assembly, Resolution 514 in March 2022, and the plan is for the Intergovernmental Negotiation Committee to start their work in the second half of 2022 and to finish their work by the end of this year. And as introduced by Mr. ZHOU just now, that our country representatives will meet in Busan at the end of this November and the beginning of December to try to come up with this very important global plastic treaty. And so far, there is a revised zero draft of this plastic treaty, and the topics covered are very significant ones, including primary plastic polymers, chemicals and polymers of concern, problematic and avoidable plastic products, extended producer responsibilities, micro and nanoplastics, emissions release of plastics, and also especially for developing countries, the waste management sector. So these 2 developments, the BBNJ agreement and also the ongoing negotiation of the plastic treaty, I see many possible overlaps for them, including their mandates and also the topics that possibly can be discussed under these 2 instruments. And one key issue that I hope we can pick up more in our discussion is the transfer of technology and technical assistance, because these are both key issues for developing states, for instance, during negotiations, in their decision-making to decide whether to join the treaty, and also in future implementation. So I think I will stop here, and I look forward to our panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we will get back to the issue of transfer of technology, because it is quite important. I think the question of resources also is quite significant. But let me now turn to Pierre Fayet, who is online from the University of Portsmouth, and he is the UNESCO Chair in Ocean Governance and Professor of Economics. Pierre, maybe the first question would be, you have been listening to what has been said so far. Any comment or feedback to what you have heard?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So first, I do apologize for not being with you today. I was in Beijing yesterday, so I flew from Beijing to Brittany, to western part of France, where I am today. I think the first, I have 3, or maybe I will draft my comments around 3 topics. I think the first one is really to be modest. in the way that we have been developing quite a number of large resolutions, COPs, targets, etc. But overall, we have failed to meet these targets. We have done some work on the achievement of the Aichi 11, for instance, for the developing countries. There's only 3 countries in the certain area, certain worlds, you know, that made the target. And now we have the 30 by 30. Now we have the BBNG. So it means that all of these targets are not for a big part of the world. They are for the countries who are able to have the tools, to have the policy, overall to have the governance schemes to be able to implement and to look after the well-functioning of the mechanisms for ensuring that the oceans is going well, is in a good shape. So that's, I think, something important. And looking at following this, I think is to be really realistic in the way that when we have done, and I've just completed last week the Blue Economy strategy for the East African community. One of the key points, and this is not only for the East African communities, I think it's mainly for all the countries in the world, is that the people don't really understand what is the ocean governance. And they don't understand because they don't have the capacity and the tools to understand this. So this is what struggles us, is to find out that first, the ocean governance, the blue economy policies, and all the initiatives around this are being pushed and being pulled by the different big organizations like the World Bank, the EU, the African Development Bank, the ASEAN Development Bank. But the countries themselves, they don't have the capacity to handle this. First, because they don't, they haven't done some appropriation. The ownership is still not there. So if the ownership is not there, how can they act to properly to run some ocean governance? So this is a very important topic, and we have been developed recently with the Directorate General of the EU, some kind of mechanism to improve the capacity of the countries to be able to honor the blue ocean economy governance schemes, or the blue economy. And that's something very important. So in the way that it is not by developing large initiative or having some big targets in mind, it is really about doing the work at the ground level. And this is something that is clearly missing at the moment, is that we talk a lot at the international level, what can be done, you know, like for instance, the BBNG, yeah, but the BBNG, yes, but the developed nations, they cannot, you know, do anything at the BBNG level. They even cannot manage their cost and their EEZ. So you need to think a bit more in a realism way. I think the last point I will try to make sure is about the need of a transformative way of approaching, you know, the ocean governance. So it's really about going step by step in terms of improving the capacity of the countries to set up their own policy, not a policy that has been promoted by a third party. So that's quite fundamental. And when we will reach this, I think that's everything will be a bit more in place. And of course, we need to integrate the changes. And China, for instance, will have a population is already decreasing in China by 2 million from 2022 to 2023. And it will be by 700 million at the end of 2100. So you see the dramatic change. So that should be reflected in the international policy. How the change in the population with a massive increase from Africa, massive decrease from the ASEAN, of course, European one, will interfere, you know, with the way we are managing the oceans at the moment. So it's really about providing to be realistic, to be modest, and to promote some change in the way we are looking at the situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think, I think you have made quite a good point about, as you said, in a way being modest, or we can say being realistic about the capacity of implementation of a number of countries given the resources, whether skills, expertise, or finance, which are needed. And then we get to this question that Professor Liu has raised of technology and transfer of technology, because on the one hand, we can see that technology can bring a lot to accelerating the process of elaborating governance, ocean governance, and implementing, enforcing governance, because you have capacities of monitoring which are provided by this new technology. If you take just the example of robots or drones, for instance. But at the same time, not all the countries have the ability or the access to this kind of high-end technology. How do you square the circle, if I can put it that way, between the need for this technology, because this will really accelerate the governance process and implementation, and on the other hand, providing these technologies to countries which cannot afford it, but then you raise issues of intellectual property, concerns about unfair competition, and so on and so forth. So who wants to start on that? Ashok, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First to say that this is what debates are meant for. I totally disagree with my compatriot who's French in the university, and we know each other. I think, yes, we have to be modest personally, but you have to act decisively, because there's no time. There is an urgency, and you have to act decisively. That's the first point. Second point is to respond to your question on technology. You need always, humanity has lived with breakthroughs, with technological, with innovation, with breakthroughs, to act decisively and with ambition, and not modestly. Technology is not modest. What I saw this morning in the Marine Expo is not modest at all. It's very powerful. You need to react to what's happening in the climate crisis and in the ocean crisis and the health of the ocean with a lot of ambition, with a lot of means and money and investment. To give you an example, we are transforming this digital twin for the ocean. I know China has digital twin for the ocean. There's one called Mercator, Mercator Ocean, which was initially a French initiative. Now it's an EU initiative, which is supported by the EU, like 50 million per year, and we are transforming it into an intergovernmental, to stay in the ocean governance, tool which would be hosted by the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission, the IOC at UNESCO, and with different. And what we have done is that we are making bridges with Digital Ocean in China, with this one, with scientists in India, and also with Brazil. That means South-South cooperation in this digital tool for the ocean, which is going to be transformed into an intergovernmental organization, which I think is, so it's again breakthrough technology, act with ambition, and act in a cohesive intergovernmental way, and that's not modest, that's very ambitious, but that's the only way to act, and that's what I believe.
Professor.
If I can go next, in response to your question about information sharing, about the access to the information, and also what Ashok has just shared. I think new technologies can really empower one key aspect, which is data collection. because all these new technologies like satellite imagery, remote sensing, or underwater unmanned vehicles, they really have helped us greatly, and which I'm sure they will keep doing so, keep helping us greatly in the understanding of the marine environment, in decision making, in policy making, and also in sustainable management of natural resources. And also, data collection is the first step of building shared database. And database is not only important for research, of course, for laboratory research, but also at the same time because database is able to give us baseline information, which is critical in evaluating progress, in evaluating compliance, and also in enhancing our understanding to keep our understanding of the ocean consistent and efficient. So that's so I do see data collection and then building up shared database as a very organic process, and also at the same time, in addition to the process of building a database, is also a process to cultivate and nourish a network of experts, which is a key element in international collaboration and cooperation, and also at the same time for such collaboration and cooperation to be, for them to be sustainable, because the process is keep building the community of scientists for it to be to become stronger and bigger. And for technical assistance, I think from the legal point of view, it has been addressed in negotiation, because in many international instruments, it remains to be such a key section in the instrument. Another minor point that I want to mention here is new technology actually makes public participation more convenient and simple. Because, for instance, these days we can key in our feedbacks, or for instance, you're taking a walk at the beach and you spot a plastic bottle, and then you can just take a photo and then upload it to, for instance, your environment agency to report such pollution, or to report the environmental status of that environment. And this process or this technologies, they are making the education to for the public more convenient, more accessible, and also for the public to realize that everybody can be part of this global process, global campaign, instead of they are high up there, their only general international commitment.
Thank you. Pierre, would you like to react, since there was a reaction or a feedback to your comments, before we give the floor to the other speakers? Yes.
Yeah, well, I will start with the data and the technology. This is pertinent, but again, and this is what we see on the ground now. From almost all the countries, for instance, nobody has any ocean accounting. Nobody has any blue economy accounting or any satellite accounting, and we have developed, because of this, when we were developing the blue economy strategies or policies for many countries, or even for the African Union, for the ASEAN, for instance, we put up front the fact that there's a need, or there's a big requirement for having a dedicated accounting system for the oceans or for the blue economy. And I just remember you that the blue economy for the African Union is not only the ocean, is also the inland waters. So there is no tools, there is no framework in place at the moment. So which is make the question of the technology, especially for recording the data, pertinent. But again, you know, what's the point of having a lot of data collection where you don't have the frame in place? So that's the major questions. But the other thing, so this is why I said it maybe not in the right way, but the emphasis should be put on the process, the engagement process, the internalization process, and the appropriation process of the ocean governance by the countries, rather than the efforts and all the international effort put on a large even large regulation scheme, etc., that the country cannot achieve because they don't have the capacity.
Thank you, Mr. Smaja. I think I couldn't agree more with the previous speakers on the importance of technology and the commitment to share the technology to address the limitation and constraint, in particular in the developing countries like most members of the IORA. I think this is very important. And I would like to underline, apart from that, partnership is very important. That's why IORA expanding our partnership with so many organizations, and this year we have already 12 dialogue partners, and we have some collaboration with so many regional organizations and UN bodies. So just to mention a little bit about our partnership with China. That China has been contributing generously on financial contribution to IORA since 2011, and China also having some activities like the workshop on blue economy with IORA member state. So this is also very important on the partnership. For the future collaboration with China, I think there are a lot of things that we can do together. China is the leading maritime nation. I think it's good for IORA to continue its collaboration with China. For instance, in strengthening multilateral engagement through global, regional, and dialogue and cooperation on many issues like maritime protection, sustainable fishing practices to reduce the IUU fishing. And we can also develop capacity on the green port that we can see from this morning exhibition. There are a lot of good things that we can collaborate together, including on the reduction of carbon footprint to address the maritime pollution and mitigate climate change. And as IORA is also gearing toward the improving of our research capacity, I think collaboration with China in particular in supporting marine research and technology development to improve global ocean health and resource management is also very important. One particular thing that I can see from this morning exhibition, I found a very interesting applied technology that we can use as a pilot project on the improving productivity on the aquaculture and fish farming. I think that's kind of technology produced by research center at the university is very important for us. In that context, I agree with Ms. Liu when mentioned about the expanding the network, university network, and it's in this regard, I think IORA, it's very timely that IORA in the middle of this month will establish and expand our university, IORA university network. So this is also part of the things that we can have more collaboration on how to have the effective and efficient ocean government in the future. That I think something that we can address this issue during the event in France next year. Thank you.
Your appreciation of our speakers and give them a big round of applause. Thank you so much.